Oakland County Circuit Court, Tuesday, August 1st, 2023 in Pontiac, Michigan. A hearing to help determine Ethan Crumbley's sentence for murdering 4 fellow students and injuring 7 other people at Oxford High School in November 2021 took yet another dramatic turn Tuesday as Crumbley's lawyer showed a video of Crumbley in jail breaking down, crying, and yelling. Quote, "Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it when it happened? I'm sorry, God." Now, in just a second, I'm going to play this video for you guys. It's about, I think, like an 8-minute video. And I want you guys, towards the end of it, to look at his face when the camera moves to him, okay? You can just see, it's almost like he's like listening to this for the first time. It's like he's having like PTSD, or it's just really, I don't know, you'll just see like his forehead, like, and eyes, you know, tighten up, and it's just, and he did this once before on like the first or second day of the Miller hearing when they were playing the audio clips. I noticed the same thing. It was like he was listening to it for the first time. This is just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. Also, at the end of the video, after the camera is on Ethan, it goes directly to one of the victim's father's face. I just want you to look at his face as well. In my personal opinion, this is while he is watching this video of Ethan, you can see this man has tears in his eyes. And it's almost as if he's feeling, or actually possibly feeling and seeing the pain and the reality of what Ethan has gone through, his mental illness. Again, don't come for me. This is just my opinion. But let me play that video for you guys.
Sorry, God. Why didn't you save her? Why didn't you save her? Why didn't you save her, God?
We'll move to the next one.
You don't stop it. Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? I know she stopped it. Please stop 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 it. Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you stop it? You let it out. Why? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, please, God. I'm sorry. Please, God. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, God. Stop it. You couldn't stop it, God, but you didn't stop it. And now it continues. It always stop it. Guys, stop it, please. Stop it, guys. Stop it. Stop, God, stop.
Stop pushing forward.
Stop. God, stop, please, God. Oh, stop. 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 God, stop. God, stop it. Please. God, yes, stop it. I did. Stop it. Yes, stop it. Right, go back. Stop it. Yes, stop it. Yes, stop it. Yes, stop it. Yes, stop it. Stop it. We can stop it. Yes, stop it. Yes, stop it.
Let's lay back. Let's lay back.
It's stop it, God. Please stop it. You didn't 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 stop it. Sit there. You don't stop it. You don't stop it. You don't stop it. You don't stop it.
Remain calm. You're doing fine.
That's what we're doing. That's right. Oh, why you stop? Oh, why? Oh, why you didn't stop it? Please tell me. Oh, no, you didn't stop it. I didn't stop it. I didn't stop it.
All your students at the same time will be taken.
You didn't stop it. You didn't stop it.
Yeah. Remain calm. You're doing fine. This will be pursued. You're just saying time will be taken.
Please. Ask you. Just ask.
All right.
Please stop.
Yeah.
Please stop.
I count three. You're gonna sit down. 1, 2, 3.
Go ahead, tell me why.
Remain calm. You're doing fine. Allow you to listen.
You don't stop it. Why did you stop it?
Remain
Why
calm.
did you stop it?
You're doing fine.
Why did you stop it?
Understand.
Why don't you stop it? Please stop it. 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 Why did you stop it? God, why? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it, God? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? You let it out.
All right. Doctor, what did we just witness?
So, we witness a child in the throes of psychosis.
So after playing that video, the defense attorney, Ethan's defense attorney, Paulette Lofton, questions witness Dr. Colin King, who after watching this hearing like 3 times, I think I watched it so much because I found this doctor so intelligent. I've dealt with like mental health, depression, anxiety, things like that. And this doctor just, in my opinion, was like nailing everything on the head. Like it's like he just knew. I don't know. I'll leave it there. He just was very intelligent to me. I fully believe that he understood exactly what he was saying. Also in a little bit, I'll play a clip of he names all the testing that he's done on Ethan, as well as the way Ethan reacted in response to the test. For instance, I don't know if you guys watched the trial for Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland, Florida shooter, who, initially when they arrested him, the body cam footage and stuff of him in the jail, he's pretending to be mentally insane. It's more than obvious. He's not mentally insane, in my opinion. And he was faking it because he wanted to, pretend that he was mentally insane. Well, when the doctor Dr. King explains the testing and the procedures and how it went, and Ethan's responses, it's a totally different response.
We're going to move along to part 4, which is Ethan's testing. Can you explain to the court the tests that you performed with Ethan?
Certainly. So I performed 15 different types of tests, and I wanted to, because there was an opportunity to image his brain, so I wanted to test his brain to see what his brain is like. And so there are a list of 15 tests here on the screen in my report.
Okay, let's go through them. The evaluation of competency to stand trial. Why was this important?
It was important because this is a test that is affirmed by that is recognized, I should say, by the U.S. Supreme Court in Dusky versus the people in 1960. And it essentially looks at 3 things. Does the person have the ability to consult with their attorney? Does the person have the ability to rationally understand the proceedings of the court? Does the person have a factual understanding of the proceedings of the court? And the reason why I administer this test is because I know that sometimes inmates feign or they fake. They try to pretend that something is going on when that is not the case. So when I administer this test, anything below 60 is normal, indicating that Ethan approached this test in an honest and open manner. In other words, he was not feigning. He didn't know the questions that pertain to feigning.
All right. And what were the results?
He does have the ability to consult with his attorney. He does understand the charges against him, and he does have a factual understanding of the charges.
Okay. Let's move on to the next test, the mini mental status examination. What is that?
It's a test that has essentially 30 questions, and it tests the person's orientation. My reason for administering this is, again, this is one of the instruments that if someone wants to feign or fake, they can easily do that. For example, some of the questions are, what is the date? What is the day? Where are you? And Ethan answered all of those questions, indicating on that day that he was oriented times 3.
Let's move to the next one. You did a survey of stress symptoms. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you explain your findings?
So on this instrument, on the survey of stress symptoms, Ethan scored 39, indicating high levels of stress. And it was very clear to me that he was approaching it in a very honest, test-taking manner.
Okay. And can you describe some of the symptoms that this test addresses?
Certainly. Anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, loneliness, intrusive thoughts, fatigue. All of those are elements that are present in this test that he endorsed.
Okay. Let's move to the next one, post-traumatic stress checklist for DSM-5. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. It's an instrument that is based on the DSM-5, which is the golden standard of diagnosing mental illness. And so his score of 57 places him in a very high stress category that meets their DSM criteria.
You then did the Beck Depression Inventory. Can you explain that to the court?
Sure. It's an instrument that assesses for depression, sadness, intrusive thoughts, malaise, and his score is 29, which is on that higher level, indicating very high levels of depression.
And again, you're performing these testings at least a year after he has become incarcerated, correct?
That is correct.
Let's look at the next one. It's the Burns Anxiety Inventory. Can you explain to the court what that is?
So that is a measure of one's anxiety, how anxious you are as a person. And as we know, anxiety has a direct effect on the brain. Ethan's score is 53, which is actually in the highest classification of anxiety.
And does that finding of high anxiety fit into all of the other evidence you were looking at? The journal, the text messaging between his friend, and what he self-reported to you?
That is correct.
Let's now look at the brief psychiatric rating scale. Can you explain what that is to the court and what your findings were?
Yeah, so this instrument looks at psychosis. And what is psychosis? Psychosis is a break from reality, as evidenced by auditory hallucinations and visual delusions. and he endorsed several of those items, indicating the presence of psychosis.
Okay. Let's now look at the Kaufman Brief Intelligence Test. Can you explain what that is and what your findings were?
Yes, the Kaufman Brief Intelligence Test is administered to test someone's level of intellectual functioning. The reason why I administered this instrument is I wanted to find out why was he failing in school. In my testing, if you have an intelligent person who is failing in the classroom, it's a signal that there is something going on. And when I administered this test, I saw that his verbal IQ was 104. So average, anything above 85 to about 100, 110 falls in the average range. So he has average verbal IQ, average nonverbal IQ, and overall average intelligence.
You then went on to perform the Wide Range Achievement Test. Can you explain what that is and what your findings were?
Certainly, in the state of Michigan, for special education testing, we administer an intelligence test and 2 achievement tests. So I administered the Wide Range Achievement Test just to see if I missed anything in terms of his ability to function in their classroom. And except for math, most of his scores were average to high average. Again, that's how we know that there's something else going on with someone who has average intelligence.
Let's move on to the Weschler Individual Achievement Test. Can you explain what that is and what your findings were?
So that is the second of the 2 achievement tests, the RAP and the Wyatt. Again, it's just to sort of double check your results. And again, the scores are consistent with someone who has the ability academically to function in the classroom, but wasn't.
Then finally, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. What is that and what were your results?
So that is, the MMPI is for, this one is for adolescents. It's regarded as the dean of tests to determine mental illness. This test has been validated across various measures, and it's a test that psychologists use. On the table to the left, that is his PSY score. His score is 801. Anything over 60 means that the person has a number of those symptoms.
Of mental illness.
Of mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So his score is 81, indicating someone who has high degrees of paranoia and hallucinations. And then on the right, which is even more troubling, the table on the right, he has elevations above 60 in 2 key measures. One is OCD, obsessive compulsive, and anxiety. And I would love to explain what I mean by that.
If you could explain obsessive compulsive to the court.
So there's a part of the brain called the cingulate gyrus. It runs from the front of the brain to the back of the brain. That is the brain gear shifter. It allows us to shift from one thing to the next. In Ethan's case, someone who scores highly on this measure, what it tells me that this person does not have the ability to shut off those thoughts. It's like being stuck on. So you're with these thoughts every single day, every single night. And we see that with people who have OCD. He also has very high levels of anxiety, and those 2 tend to hang together. And as you notice in his journal, you notice that repetition, that the voices don't stop. My brain is on fire. Well, when I tested his brain, it's very consistent with what he was writing.
Okay. Does the obsessive compulsive disorder explain the constant searches on internet to look at violent things or to research things or any type of preparation and planning?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's move to the summary of the testing results that you performed. Do you believe that Ethan is a highly intelligent person?
I do.
Do you believe that he suffers from debilitating anxiety?
I do.
Do you believe that he is and was severely depressed?
I do.
Do you believe that he has features of obsessive compulsive disorder?
I do.
Were you able to determine that he was failing at school when, as you stated, he shouldn't have been?
I did.
Okay, and as I mentioned, Dr. King is an expert in mental health and brain injuries who has testified in about 25 juvenile lifer cases. He testified that a accumulation of childhood trauma, neglectful and abusive parents, a lack of acknowledgement by the school system, and mental health issues led to the events of November 30th, 2021. And I could not agree with him any more on each and every one of those. Let's continue. Crumbly couldn't make sense of what was happening to him mentally and had no one to turn to for help, King testified. Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it when it happened? I'm sorry, God. King spent more than 22 hours over 6 sessions with Crumbly about a year after the shooting, he said, producing a 70-page report on the teenager, reviewed by psychologist Malcolm Court. King's review examined Crumbley's childhood, the influence of his parents, Oxford school system, and the events leading up to the shooting, including the death of Crumbley's dog. The teen, he said, was the one who had to dispose of the animal. So Ethan was extremely attached to this dog that he had when he was a child, and the dog ended up passing away. Well, Ethan had to dispose of the dog, okay, as a young child. So he was very sad over this, separation. The only friend he had type of thing is now gone. According to King, Crumbly had a major depressive disorder with psychosis, anxiety, and features of obsessive compulsive disorder. He is mentally ill, King said. Dr. King uses an egg to demonstrate the softness of brain tissue in Ethan Crumbley's brain during his testimony, which I'll play for you guys right now.
So Ethan is 6'2", and this is less than 2 feet. That's the human brain. The reason why our brains don't collapse when we have an injury is because the brain is housed in this hard shell called the skull. This skull protects the brain from external injuries.
King then says he is absolutely capable of rehabilitation, noting that the brain has the ability to generate new pathways. For example, he said, stroke victims can learn how to walk and talk again. Ethan's brain is still maturing and will not reach full maturity for another 10 years, King testified. King also discussed the phenomenon of the feral child in reference to Crumbly, defining a feral child as someone isolated from others, turning into a misfit of society with a lack of social cues. King described the influence of Crumbly's parents as a litany of horrible abuse. I couldn't agree more. Let's continue. James and Jennifer Crumbly are charged with involuntary manslaughter, the first parents in America to be criminally charged in a school shooting. Their appeal to have the charges struck down is pending before the Michigan Supreme Court. Unfortunately, I just don't see this going all the way through. Especially because the state charged Ethan as an adult, yet charging the parents for involuntary manslaughter because the gun was accessible to a child. Just a little bit confusing to a child, but they charged him as an adult. I don't know. I just find it very, I feel that even though they've already went to, 4 or 5 motion hearings and everything else, I just, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to be very, very hard to prosecute them. But, I mean, they've already been locked up for almost, like a year and a half. I feel so many different ways about the parents. I feel that they were so 100% neglectful. Actually, you know what? I'll actually even show you guys I'm going to go through the text messages. Jennifer Crumbley's text messages between Jennifer Crumbley and Ethan, as well as Jennifer and Ethan's dad. I totally probably just screwed this video up by doing this, but I think it will make things a lot more clear to you guys. So let's just go through these text messages really quick right now. On March 9th, 2021, Ethan to Jennifer. Ethan says, "Can you get home now?" This is at 7:50 p.m. Ethan, "There's someone in the house, I think." Ethan, "Someone walked into the bathroom and flushed the toilet and left the light on." Ethan, "And I thought it was you, but when I came out, there was no one home." Ethan, "There's no one in the house, though." Ethan, "Dude, my door just slammed." Ethan, at 8:01 p.m. "Maybe it's just my paranoia." Ethan, "But when are you going to get home?" So all these messages were sent from Ethan to Jennifer starting at 7:50 p.m., ending at 8:01 p.m. Jennifer never responded to Ethan on March 9th. March 10th, Jennifer to Ethan. So this was the next day. Her first response back to him was at 10:21 a.m. "Where's your dad?" Ethan, "Doing work." March 17th, Ethan to Jennifer. Ethan, 6:03 p.m. "Okay, the house is now haunted." Ethan, "Some weird shit just happened and now I'm scared." Ethan, "I got some videos." Ethan, "And a picture of the demon." Ethan, "It is throwing bowls." Ethan, "I am not joking. It fucked up the kitchen." Ethan, "I'm just going to be outsider for a while." Ethan, at 6:29 p.m. So this is from 6:03 to 6:29 p.m. "Can you at least text me back?" Jennifer did not respond. She was again horseback riding. She would not text Ethan back again until the afternoon of March 19th. However, she did text Ethan's father, James Cumbley, to discuss his behavior. On March 19th, this is Jennifer to James Cumbley. Jennifer at 9:37 a.m. "You awake?" Jennifer, "Ethan awake?" James, yeah. Jennifer, "How is he?" James, "He woke up looking like he had way too much to drink last night, complaining about a headache." Jennifer, "Well, he was really worked up and out of control, so I can see why." Jennifer, "All I know is he needs to eat, go to work, and work hard, not complain, and he can get his stuff back." Jennifer, "You respond? I didn't get it." James, "Jesus, yes." James, he said, "Let me ask you a question. Why am I in your guys' room?" So the night before, he walked into their room and asked why he was in their room. Or actually that morning, I think. Jennifer, "Oh my God." James, "I totally thought you were giving him a Xanax last night." Jennifer, "Does he seem better?" "No, melatonin." James, "I know." Jennifer, "But he hasn't had one before. Should only give him half." So she's trying to say that the melatonin is what made him wake up and go into their room and say, "What am I doing in your room?" Melatonin's a vitamin, so it was his mental illness. James, "He is just doing his school. Says his head hurts. He took some Tylenol." Jennifer, "Is he okay to work?" James, "Yes." Jennifer, "Does he remember what he did?" James, "Dude, I'm working on the demo right now. I have not talked to him, and he is doing school." Jennifer to Ethan. Jennifer, "Where's your dad?" Jennifer, "Text me when you're done." Jennifer, "Done yet?" March 20th, 2021, Ethan to Jennifer. Ethan, "I finished picking up the room." Ethan, "I cleaned until the clothes started flying off the shelf." Ethan, "This stuff only happens when I'm home alone." Ethan, "I picked the clothes back up though." In addition to the messages exchanged in March, texts from the day before the Oxford school shooting were read in court as well. Some of those texts have previously been revealed, while others were new. Jennifer had texted Ethan after receiving a call that he was caught looking up bullets on his phone while at school. So on November 29th, 2021, after Jennifer receives a call from the school regarding the bullets, Jennifer says to Ethan, "Seriously, looking up bullets in school?" Ethan says, "What?" Ethan, "Oh yeah, I already went to the office for that." Ethan, "It was in first hour. All I did was look up a certain caliber at the end of class because I was curious." Ethan, "It was on my phone." Ethan, "Completely harmless." Ethan, "Teachers just have no privacy." Ethan, "They said I'm all good." Ethan, I understand why they talked to me and they said that I'm good." Ethan, "This is nothing I should be in trouble about." Jennifer, "You're not. They left me a voicemail." She included emojis of a woman covering her face, almost like a laughing emoji. Jennifer then says, did you at least show them a pic of your new gun? Ethan, no, I didn't show them the pic. My God. Ethan, I only told them I went to the range with you on Saturday. Ethan, it was a harmless act. Ethan, I have this bullet cartridge in my room that I didn't know what kind of bullet it was, and it said it was a 22. So at the end of first hour, I just looked up different types of 22 bullets, and I guess the teacher can't get their eyes off my screen. Shake my head. Jennifer, laugh out loud. I'm not mad. You have to learn not to get caught. Ethan, I know. LOL. Ethan, laughing emojis. Ethan, I just didn't want something this little to get me in trouble because, well, I didn't get to get in trouble. Laugh out loud. Ethan, I want to hear the voicemail when I get home, though. Ethan, also, I never tried to hide looking up the bullet. I just didn't think a teacher would be staring at my phone. Jennifer, okay, I saved it. These messages, especially the ones, about the demons and stuff flying around in his room, are really, really sad. King also testified about Crumbley's obsession with torturing and killing baby birds. Prosecutors showed a video Cumbley made of himself killing a bird and text messages to a friend about wanting to do it again. He wanted them to feel the pain that he was feeling inside, King said. He was actually speaking to them in a different tone of voice, almost as a parent talking to a child, almost a reflection of his mental impairment. Next, King's testimony also touched on Crumbley's backpack, which was never checked at school on the morning of the shooting, and that Cumbley expected that it would be. Cumbley and his parents were called to the school office shortly before the rampage over disturbing drawings and writings that a teacher reported. Mind you, a couple days before this, he got caught looking up ammunition online on his phone. Cumbley explained to King that after he was called down to the office, he left his backpack in the classroom, and then a school administrator went to retrieve his backpack. Cumbley said, for the first time in his life, he felt relieved, and he just knew the sheriffs were going to burst into the office and arrest him. King testified, noting Cumbley reminded him of a student who was accused of using drugs and remembered school officials searching his locker. He felt fairly sure that they were going to search his backpack, King testified, before suggesting the school administrator mishandled the situation. Also, when the school administrator brought the backpack into the office, he made a comment to Ethan saying, what do you have in here? A bunch of rocks? Why is this thing so heavy? All he had to do was unzip the backpack, but he didn't. A video of Cumbley collapsing in a diner in 2020, 1 year before the shooting, was shown in court Tuesday morning, suggesting that the boy may have suffered a brain injury. He collapsed on tile floor and could not get up on his own, according to the psychologist's testimony. Let me play that video for you guys really quick.
1 second, she has to ask a question. I can't interrupt.
Sure. So were you able to, in your discussions with Ethan and the evidence that you were presented, were you able to, or did you have some concern that an injury to the brain could have occurred based on what he reported as a child and what you saw in this video?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play the video. This is my Exhibit R. There is no sound in this video.
Let's watch it one more time, but I'm going to slow the video down. Let's just add in, the parents told the diner owner not to call 911, King testified. Crumbley also disclosed to Dr. King that he was once out with his parents picking strawberries and he fell. All that he remembers was regaining consciousness. He asked his parents what happened. Cumbley told King that his parents said he suffered a blow to the head. He was not taken to the hospital, though. If I'm recalling correctly, isn't that the same thing that was discussed in those text messages about him walking into his parents' room and not remembering it and having a headache? Much of Dr. King's testimony was focused on Crumbley's parents and how he said they did not get him help when he needed it. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, but, the school, when the parents came to the school, and the school at that point told them that Ethan needs to, go see somebody for, mental health within the next, within 48 hours, but allowed the parents to both return to work without taking the child, Ethan, home or to get help. Why didn't the school call and get help right away, right then and there? Why didn't they demand that the parents take him home? You know what I mean? The school plays a huge part in this. I'm sorry, but they do. Dr. King testified, what stood out to me was that he told his parents that he was hearing voices and that he needed to see a therapist, King testified, and it never, ever happened. King also testified that there seemed to be discord between the parents. There were frequent, harsh discussions about infidelity, suicide, and which parent Ethan needed to choose in the event that they separated. There was constant family discord and dysfunction. There was no indication that he was ever taken to a doctor, King testified. Next, King testified about Crumbley's childhood and how he was left alone often, starting when he was 6 years old. Crumbley, at the age of 6, would wander to neighbors' homes when there was a thunderstorm, tell them he was afraid, and would ask them for help. I'm sorry, but if that does not hurt your heart, I don't know what will. King also testified about text messages he reviewed from Crumbley to his mom when he was 10 years old. He would be home alone and text her, but she would not respond. Even at the age of 6, there were some issues, King testified. In my interviews, he explained that he spent countless hours watching various adult games, he testified. He also spent an extreme amount of time going to websites with graphic scenes, such as video games and, things of that nature. During cross-examination by the prosecution, King defended his conclusions that Crumbley suffers from mental illness and disclosed more troubling childhood behavior by Crumbley. Ethan said that at age 6, he went up to a preschool worker and said, "Wouldn't it be cool if cars can just crash into this school and kill a lot of people?" King said. King disclosed this incident while explaining why he disagreed with another expert's report that Crumbley did not suffer from mental illness. So, in the other expert is the jail psychiatrist that she was on the stand, I think maybe day 1 or day 2. I assume she sees a lot of mental ill patients and kind of probably gives the inmates who have mental illness, I guarantee you that their documentation might resemble like all the same type of thing. Just my opinion, again, I could be wrong. If someone tells you I'm seeing things, there's a demon in my house, that's mental illness. Mental illness is real, King said. Crumbley slowly coming to grips with it is what he did. The prosecutor pressed King, stating there was no indication that Crumbley engaged in unusual behavior that would be typical of psychosis in or around the shooting. King responded, "We all saw the video from the night before the shooting," referring to Crumbley's pre-recorded rant about troubles in the world and how he needed to teach people a lesson with his shooting spree. We listened to him saying, "I am the demon." For someone who verbalizes that, tells me that person has a serious disorder. The prosecutor challenged much of King's testimony as part of a broader effort to show, as the prosecution believes, that Ethan was not insane at the time of the shooting and knew right from wrong. I've never looked at a case this way, or a school shooting, or anything the way I'm starting to look at this, but I don't believe that he was mentally insane, and that's what that doctor is saying. I believe that he was mentally ill. He was mentally deprived. He was neglected. He was deprived of life and love and never knew what it felt like to be loved, which I believe only made him sicker mentally, if that makes sense. This is just, again, how I'm seeing things. He had nobody but himself, and at one point his dog that he had to bury when he was a young child. I also don't want to give the wrong impression and say that because of these things that it's okay what he did, that, you know, it's excusable, because by no means do I think it's excusable. I believe this whole entire situation is horrific. It's sad. It's horrible for everyone and anyone involved. Prior to Cumbley pleading guilty, experts found Cumbley to be competent and not criminally insane. And the expert who found him not to be criminally insane was the same expert that all the inmates see who testified on day one of the Miller hearing. And because of this, Ethan's attorney decided to drop the insanity defense, which they were going to plead initially, but that was dropped and he pled guilty. Again, I don't think he was criminally mentally insane. I think he was severely mentally ill with additional diagnoses of depression, bipolar, anxiety, and had a horrible upbringing and horrible parents. The prosecution also grilled King about Crumbley's behavior after he carried out the shooting and surrendered, noting he didn't mention demons or delusions, followed commands, and behaved in a coherent manner. King responded, quote, "The entire courtroom watched 5 videos of Ethan Crumbley in Psychosis," quote. But that wasn't at the time of the shooting, the prosecutor said, noting the video of Crumbley saying sorry and pleading to God was after the shooting while he was in jail. King testified that he believes Cumbley was showing remorse in that jail video, is what he's referring to. Ethan is slowly coming to grips with what he has done in that video, and he is expressing extreme sorrow, King said, adding that by asking why God allowed the shooting to take place, even though he himself carried it out, that's a break from reality. So to sum everything up, this is where court pretty much ended for the day. There's one more witness that needs to testify, and that's going to take place on August 18th at Oakland County Courthouse. So I will give you guys an update either that evening or the following day. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for watching. Make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'm curious what you guys think.